Hello guys, NautoAis here, and this is going to be a throwback thoughts and basically looking back at one of my favorite Marvel vs. Capcom games. So yes, I do play the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Of course, I just bought the Marvel collection. Nostalgic, it is what it is, especially with trophies for me personally. I know a lot of people even double dip, buying it digitally, physically, Switch, Steam, PS4, you get it. So anyway, what am I talking about is I want to look back the thoughts of probably, I guess, to some impression of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and its sequel. So believe it or not, yes, I do enjoy this game, but my top favorite one is Marvel vs. Capcom 3 because of the graphic, the simple input, the design, basically comic, and of course, nothing personal, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, it's a shit pile of shit. But of course, credit to Maximilian for doing a mod, making the game good. As a result, a lot of people are now buying the game on Steam. So again, that'll be a different story. I did a video on that one. So anyway, what are my thoughts on Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Ultimate? So first of all, one is, yes, the elephant in the room, the controversy with Ultimate. There's actually two. One, I'll talk about it later. And the other one was the release date, and no DLC whatsoever for that one. It was just another game within a year. And the reason behind it was, oh, it's a Capcom tradition, it's been a history. But then some people had said something to do with tsunami at that time. Again, no joke there. But some people kind of sort of counter argue, said that no, they were far from the event of the tsunami. Again, not touching it. It is what it is. They made their decision, they made their bed. And unfortunately, the game did not sell well as its original. And of course, Nitsuma after that did resign from what I understand. But it is what it is. That's the past. But yeah, the reason that's my favorite Marvel vs. Capcom game is because, like I said, the comic graphic, beautiful. I like it. Plus, the buttons is based on Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Simplified, then 2-punch, 2 kicks. You know what I mean? They went back to that one with Infinite because people like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is the most popular one. I get it. But like I said, my personal one is Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And I just wish with Infinite they should just continue with that one. I don't know if they're trying to make it different. Of course, if you follow McMaster and Maximilian, they did talk about what happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, what happened, why with the, well, the way it is. But again, you can just watch them about it. So, in my personal opinion, I wish they just stuck with what they did with Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And I mean, right now, they even were doing some mods with the game, adding new characters in. So that's interesting there. So yes, easy to play, easy to pick up, comic type graphic style makes sense because it's a Marvel comic. And in the long run, the mod community adding more new characters. And then you might say, well, what about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite Beyond? Well, according to Max, he's thinking about it, but I mean, it is what it is. It'll probably be a while for him. They're looking for option of how to do it because, again, you gotta keep in mind with that one, to some extent, gist of it is, he's using his own money to make this mod. Just saying they're different story. So, yes, like I said, there's a lot of good thing about this game. That's why he's one of my favorite. Now, there is a bit of a controversy with this game, believe it or not, even the original one and the Ultimate. So, first of all, like I said, the elephant in the room was the gap between the regular and Ultimate. And like they said, oh, it was a Capcom tradition, which is really not. But they say they probably didn't know how to do DLC yet, because the funny part is, even you bought Ultimate, if you don't have Jill and Shumagurat, you still have to buy them as DLC. So it's kind of weird there. But again, it is what it is. You get 12 new characters at least, but you know, that's how it goes. Second was, the game actually was pushed up because of the fiscal year. For a while, believe it or not, Capcom used to do this habit to trying to maximize sale by pushing up the release date even if they're incomplete. I mean, case in point, Street Fighter 5, but there was a rumor that even Sony was pushing that to be like a February release in 2016. That's why it was like bare bone. They couldn't really do anything about it. It was weird because originally, from what I understand, I could be wrong, that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was going to be like May, and then all of a sudden they moved it up to February, and then kind of figured out, oh, because of Ultimate that released in November. Again, like I said, Ultimate didn't do well because it was just double dipping, and from what I understand, like I said, Nitsuma did resign after that, because not only was he in charge of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but it was also Tatsunoko, which got him, like, you know, a good rep, but when it comes to Marvel vs. Capcom 3, it was good in the beginning, and then, oh, it was bad. And of course, the most common one was, oh, the lack of roster. So one of the biggest one, and I'm probably fault also being involved, so this is before the DEI factor, that I'll talk about it more later, that the lack of black superheroes. So again, just of it, someone asked, and then in the Comic Con convention when they introduced Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate. But before that, other controversy was the roster before the black superhero, that there were certain characters that people wanted and wasn't there. I know for me personally, I wanted the Sengoku Basara characters, but apparently the producer for that game said he didn't want the characters to be there, whatever the reason is. It is what it is. So another thing I want to add is, and I forgot to mention it on the main video, and that is, there's also the story on the Marvel side about the character choice. So, of course, if you follow the story, Nitsuma did admit that working with Marvel was a pain in the ass, believe it or not. So apparently it's not just him. Apparently other producers from other Marvel vs. Capcom fighting game also had a problem dealing with Marvel, which character to choose. Credit to Top Hat Gaming, he did a video about the characters the producer want for Marvel vs. Capcom, and let's just say there's some good and bad things about it. It is what it is. So same goes with Nitsuma, that a bit of the controversy beside the diversity of black superhero in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, that there are certain characters that Nitsuma wanted. Marvel said no. At one point he wanted the Fantastic Four, all four of them as one character. So they said, well, you get Super Skrull. I think there was even one point he wanted the Silver Surfer. But then they said was, well, it's not really that proper to something from what I understand. But also I sort of understand that he said that he was confused from what's the difference between Silver Surfer and Iceman or whatever. But again, it is what it is. I mean, heck, along with Ghost Rider, he thought the guy is always in the bike. But the bottom line, what I'm saying is that in the Marvel side, yeah, whether good, bad, or whatever, it is kind of unfortunate that when it comes to the business, especially with Marvel at a time protecting their IP, especially trying to promote the MCU movies, they're giving Capcom a hard time which character to be on Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And then I think the other one was the lack of Japanese voice for the Marvel characters, which from what I understand, they're not allowed. Just conflict of interest with the Marvel characters. But at least for me personally, the Capcom side, there's English voice. So props to that, Kyle Herbert for Ryu, like always. And of course, like I said, roster, worst Ken, worst Mega Man, and that was a big one there, Mega Man. And because at the time, Inafune was basically in bad terms with Capcom to a point they're trying to send a message that Mega Man is dead, which of course it's not. So they gave it a second chance. They gave some bullshit reason, like one of them was, oh, we didn't know how to do a Mega Man game. But of course, Mighty Number 9, you know what happened there. But like I said, Ken wasn't there, but again, because of Ryu and certain famous popular character wasn't there. And of course, but granted, they were adding new characters in. That's what the best thing about Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is. How do you top Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with all characters from past Marvel game in transition to Marvel vs. Capcom 3? Put half your roster with new characters, and there you go. But the biggest one, and now I'm going to talk about it, like I said, is diversity. So at the time I said it would be nice if Capcom were diverse, adding more black superhero. And like I said, somebody at Comic Con did talk about what happened. And oh boy, the story there is very interesting. So I want to do a reenactment about this particular part about Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 in Comic Con. And at that year, I don't think the DI factory even exists yet, but there were some people that it would be nice, quote unquote, to be diverse in the video game. And now we see it in 2020 and beyond what happened, but that's a different story there. So, of course, he revealed the new characters for Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate. And, of course, no Mega Man, but that's a different story there. But when it comes to, I hate to go here, race, especially in the Marvel side, there was someone, and even to some extent I admit I kind of probably also decided to involve in this situation, that is, the lack of black superhero. And there are some, remember, there's Storm, and of course previously it's War Machine, but it is what it is, you can see why. So someone at Comic Con basically said was, it's great to have new characters in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, especially in Ultimate, but what's the reason behind it, the lack of black superhero? And this is crazy that someone even said it, because like I said, I even said it, and some people who are even actually, believe it or not, who are a fan of the franchise, are black, said, why? He doesn't need it, I'm not offended. And I said, well, diversity is good. Now I realize that it may be good, but there should be balance. But again, that's a different story there, different timeline, different year there. So what happened when someone asked, there was somebody from Marvel, there was somebody from Capcom, Nitsuma was in charge of the game and said Killian was there. So everyone basically were like, when they answered that question, they were like doing this. So I'm gonna reenact what people did, including Nitsuma. So when someone asked, oh, how come the lack of black superhero? They were like, yeah, so they were doing some gesture. They were even pointing to the person to the right because they don't want to answer it. Like, most of them didn't want to answer it, to a point that you got to give credit to Seth Killian to kind of say, sort of a workaround without being political. And basically, even remember, he said, like, well, we choose the best popular characters in the game for the casual who are not in tune to the Marvel, and hopefully that if the game, the franchise succeed, which of course is a different story, but you know what happened, maybe in the long run. But yeah, like, they will really have to be careful that Nitsuma, somebody from Capcom producer, somebody from Marvel, they didn't want to answer it. And Seth Killian just said, yeah, we just choose the best of the best, which kind of makes sense there. Because a follow-up on that one, believe it or not, that somebody in Capcom actually did say something that kind of make more sense, that, oh, what's the lack of black superhero? How come you don't put in Luke Cage? You got the Hulk. How come Black Panther? You got Wolverine. Of course, Black Panther's now in Marvel versus Capcom Infinite and beyond. And then, oh, how come no Blade? You got Deadpool. So it doesn't really make sense to some extent that you have somebody that has the same architect superpower. They don't see rate. They just see, well, to some extent, popularity and the power of that particular Marvel character. That kind of makes sense there. So yeah, it was interesting, that part, that they almost went political there and they did not want to say anything about it. And there you go, my throwback thoughts of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, my favorite Marvel vs. Capcom game. I would rank it number 1 for that one. And like I said, easy to pick up, comic graphics, and of course now the mods, and of course the history behind it. Interesting. So next time I want to give my thoughts on another throwback with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate with Phoenix Wright, because there's a lot of controversy with that one, to a point that it even kind of give Mega Man a middle finger. So with that, I'll see you guys later.